Good morning, YouTubers. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch my videos. A live view of Old Faithful. People are waiting for it to go off. It is currently 11:04 a.m. There it goes. Central Daylight Time, or 10:04 a.m. Mountain Time. Do people realize the dangers of being there at Yellowstone? Scientists would say that the greatest danger would be a hydrothermal eruption. I don't know. It's been showing a lot of increased activity. There she goes. Look at that. A spectacular sight. Yeah, but is it really worth being there in case there's an eruption, especially with the increased activity? Do they realize when they see the black steam coming up from the hot pools and the geysers, the significance of what that means? You know, for the black or gray steam, it means that the water underneath is over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for it to melt the rock and for it to bring up, the particles. Do they even know? They probably don't care. It's a little smoky there today at Old Faithful. It is September 6th, 2022. I think this eruption would be considered a short eruption, a small eruption. It was supposed to go off at 10:58, I believe, but they give it plus or minus 10 minutes before it erupts. And it's been active lately there at Yellowstone. Lots of earthquakes today. I got a text message from one of my followers there on Twitter of an account there in Quebec, Canada, that's been watching the activity. Here's a screen capture of Quebec Seismic Network. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied today. And you'll notice that they got Moose Creek, Denny Creek, Old Faithful, Greeley Creek, etc. Holmes Hill is not working properly, or is Horse Butte, Lake Butte. Now these are spectrograms. Let me make it bigger. Mirror Lake Plateau, Madison River that they got written wrong. Northeast Entrance, Norris Junction, Parker Peak, Purple Mountain, Pitchstone Plateau, and look at Soda Butte, Western Boundary, and look at Yellowstone Lake. Those that live there up in Canada, and especially the scientists, know if there is an eruption. Hopefully it will be a small eruption when it goes off, but they will get the ash all the way up there in Canada. As the earthquake activity increases, I keep increasing the number of monitors that I'm following. I originally showed 3, and now I'm up to 5, and before that I was up to 4. On the left here, we got the borehole for the Madison River area. Next to that is Maple Creek, Soda Butte, here in the center, Denny Creek, second from the right, and Little West Thumb on the far right. Going to the thumbnails, let me bring this up a little bit. Okay, up over here, the northeast area of the park is Soda Butte. Over here we have Maple Creek by Greeley Lake. That's the Madison River area. Madison River. I don't see. Oh, there it is. Denny Creek. There it is. Yeah, look at all the activity that was showing earlier at Denny Creek. But then I also noticed Maple Creek, was having the same activity. And we'll come down and show you all the earthquakes that are marked in red. Many years ago when I was watching the live webcam, I have seen, rock fall from earthquakes. There's that one tree I was talking about earlier, the Widowmaker. West Thumb, or Little West Thumb as I like to call it. Yeah, it's been screaming again. This is Denny Creek. And Soda Butte has been screaming also. Screaming is when a volcano makes a high-pitched, kind of like a tea kettle sound, as a magma rushes into the system so fast. Generally, the equipment cannot pick up the signature, and it goes quiet. Yeah, this here is West Thumb, Little West Thumb. Now you can see the magma that's coming up. And I was hoping that it was going to settle down, but it's not. It's increased its activity, and you'll remember there's a crack at the bottom of the lake. All of Yellowstone's got a rye-like cap holding in the gases, so the magma's been traveling horizontally. Yeah, look at that. Now this is this morning, just a little while ago when I pulled the data. USGS is only reporting 5 earthquakes within the last 24 hours, which we know is bunk. Looks like the largest they are reporting is a 1.0. See, this is the Madison River area. This is the area when it had its last major eruption, it started. And it did what they call an unzipping, where they had multiple eruptions doing a counterclockwise rotation until it got down here by Heart Lake. And when it got down there, both the resurgent domes of Yellowstone collapsed at the same time. A lot of people don't realize what a resurgent dome is. Well, that is an area where the rock has risen up, where the magma is trying to push its way up for an eruption. Mount St. Helens had only 1 resurgent dome, but Yellowstone is so big, it has 2. Another person, Dave, I want to give a shout out, I believe it's Dave, mentioned that maybe the counterclockwise unzipping had to do with the Earth's rotation, kind of like the water as it rotates in your toilet when you flush it. I don't know. It was a good idea. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. A few years ago, they were surveying for a new road. I don't know if they were surveying to do changes to Highway 89, but when they did the survey, they found past eruptions in this area that they did not know had happened. They do know that there's been smaller eruptions since the last major eruption about 350,000 years ago. There has been 40 smaller eruptions. So I don't know if the smaller eruptions they discovered when they were surveying for a road here have been added into that or not. Many of these roads have to be constantly maintained because of the heat coming up from the caldera melting the asphalt. So they are constantly ripping it out, putting gravel that they hope will dissipate the heat coming up from the ground, and laying new asphalt. Highway 89 is one of those areas. This activity that I'm showing you here at West Thumb was about 7:17 a.m. Mountain Time. And you can see all this. Yeah. This was only about 3 hours ago. Here at 7:57 a.m. you can see the line of melt. I was trying to find this one right there. Okay, there's a quake right there. Okay, let me make it bigger. At 7:27. That one comes in as a magnitude 1.83. And let's see what else we got. This magma that was coming in looks like it was going on for about an hour. You can see the clock here, or the time here. Okay. And this is what it was showing when I pulled the files. Now again, this is West Thumb. The most recent earthquake that USGS has reported was at 13:45. You can see it here on all 5 monitors. Near Haugen Lake, it was 7.3 miles in depth, and they're saying it's a 0.7. I don't think so. It'll show up on all 5 monitors. It actually comes in as a magnitude 1.65. Here we have Maple Creek. There's its signature. Here it is for the bore hole for the Madison River river area. This is borehole 207. And you can see at the bottom it comes in as a magnitude 1.65. Here we have the monitor for Denny Creek, 1.65. It doesn't matter where you take the measurements from. As long as you got the entire length of the earthquake, it should be the same no matter where. Denny Creek, yeah, we've been having drum beats, lots of drum beats lasting for hours. Let me show you this. Oh, if I can bring it up. Probably 12 to 13 hours. Let's go up over here at the top. Look at this. Yeah, drum beats. This is when the magma's coming up. And it reaches an area where the rock is cooled. It melts it. And then it pushes up. And it melts it. Pushes up. Kind of like a kink in the hose. Take a hose and bend it. Open it up. Bend it. Open it up. And the water will shoot out in spurts. And that's what we got going on here. Look at that. Let's look at the spectrogram. Yeah, and you see the line of melt. Let's go all the way down to where it looked like it started settling down. Yeah. Look at the line of melt. Very, very concerning. Look at that. I've been watching Yellowstone for about 10 years. In 2011, El Euro volcano erupted. And so I kind of thought to myself, okay, God, what should I watch now? I learned a lot from that volcano eruption and its building up to an eruption. They have live gas readings that you could see for different places on the different islands, second by second. And I knew within about 2 weeks prior to the eruption in 2011 that it was going to blow. Yellowstone is taking live gas readings, but they do not provide it to us. I wish they did. The government of Spain was providing the live gas readings. Anyways, so I was watching it and it erupted and I thought, okay, God. I asked God, what should I start watching now? And he told me Yellowstone. And I did that and I've been doing that ever since then. And many of you that have been following me since 2011 have watched how Yellowstone has slowly evolved into this unprecedented activity, all brand new activity that it has never shown before whatsoever. If you watch Yellowstone and do all the research that I've done in the last 11 years, yeah, you would have learned a lot of stuff too, just like I have. There is a really good book that you can read about the mindset of USGS called Cataclysm. It's about a fake fictional book of the eruption of Yellowstone and how there was signs prior to it, the earthquakes, how they increased, and the scientists in charge just ignored everything was going on. I'm showing you this on Google Earth. Sorry for all the mess of all my writing. The black line is the area of uplift for Yellowstone. Alright, so I'll come back out. This volcano is so large that those on the space station, if it did have another major eruption, God hope it never happens. I hope it's just a hydrothermal eruption or a small eruption. Yeah, I hope we never have a major eruption. The eruption from the Tonga volcano, yeah, that definitely had changes upon the earth. People ask me too, well, would I hear the explosion from Yellowstone living over here on the west coast or the east coast? Well, when the Tonga, whatever, volcano erupted, they heard it in Alaska. So I think we would hear it if it was a major eruption. But like I said, they worry more about a hydrothermal eruption, which is heated water exploding, throwing out rock and heated gas. They think that would happen more likely than an eruption. So this here at Denny Creek was only 3.5 hours ago. Now this is 3:32, so that would be just 3 hours ago. You can see the drum beats. And let's make that bigger. Alright, let's extract that. Yeah, rounded tops. This is volcanic. Well, there is some tectonic, because see, we got sharpened top. But there's a lot here that are rounded tops. Let me make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Yeah, volcanic tremors. And let's go down here. 15:18. 9:18 a.m. today. This is when I pulled the files. You can see it stops right here. That's a small earthquake. It might be smaller than where I put the stuff. Okay, a magnitude 1.64. Could have been a little bit larger because you can see the spectrogram. And let's go over to the hertz. Okay, we got a line of, oh, it disappeared. Got a line of melt at 5 hertz all the way up to 10 hertz. And again, I've talked about these hertz before. This would be harmonic and volcanic tremors just by the hertz. There you go. Now, I talked about the harmonic tremors. I showed you those before, where they're about half the size as volcanic tremors. Let me go back to that and I'll show you again. This comes from USGS. Okay, sharpened points. Let me make it bigger. That would be tectonic. That's when the plates are moving. You know that the continents are constantly moving. Shallow volcanic earthquakes. Long and deep, rounded tops. And then if there's a surface event, it just kind of quiet and then gets big, and then harmonic. See how it's smaller? Still rounded tops compared to shallow volcanic. Yeah, they've had earthquake swarms in this location before. Yeah, but I've never seen it continue for this long with the drum beats. I'm always giving you guys different papers you can look at for explanations of things that I talk about. This is from Discovery Magazine about drum beats from a volcano there in Russia. Drum beat earthquakes are rare, although geologists have occasionally recorded them. However, this one was strange because the beat was steady for days, but over time changed to a lower frequency with a more powerful beat. It talks about the stick slip motion, the block sitting on the surface being pulled by a gradual increase of force. At first, friction prevents the block from moving, but when the force overcomes friction, the block suddenly slips. This is the equivalent to a sudden movement of the earth in an earthquake. Roman and his colleagues say that something similar can happen inside volcanoes as magma forces its way to the surface. In this case, the head of the flow can solidify, so the pressure builds until it gives away, allowing the liquid magma to burst through. This sudden shift creates an earthquake. The process leads to a drumbeat effect when the solidification followed by bursting repeats regularly. And then it talks about the volcano there in Russia. They did not even know about harmonic tremors or volcanic tremors until Mount St. Helens erupted. This article is from 2006 and describes how it's still making drum beats. Molten rock is rising up in the volcano center conduit trying to get out. As it nears the vent at the top, it solidifies into a solid rock. In fact, a huge plug of rock, some 600 feet across and half a mile high. That's twice as tall as the Empire State Building. That solid rock in turn slides against and grinds against the adjacent rock, forming the walls of the volcanic conduit. And what we believe we're recording with these seismometers is the ground vibration that produces every time there's a little pulse of this sliding type motion. It's not unlike a squeaky piece of machinery. And in a sense, each one of these earthquakes represents a squeak. So what scientists are currently studying, which they really don't know, is the slowing down of the volcanic tremors, which may mean that the magma has changed into a more thicker, gooey blob. That would probably be basalt, but they don't have a lot of basalt here at Yellowstone. This here is Maple Creek. And here's some of the more recent earthquakes, which are not being reported. Yeah, I hate it when it goes small like that. You can see them all marked in red here. 1519, 1442, 1302. Yeah, they're not being reported. But if you want a good book to read, I believe it's called Cataclysm by Mr. Washburn, Michael Washburn. I'm sorry, it was wrong. Cataclysm by Tim Washburn. And you can probably buy it online. I see it's online for Amazon. It's online for eBay. But it's about Yellowstone's eruption and how they just kind of poo-poo and ignore everything and kept the park open. And yeah, all the screw-ups and then the people trying to escape because of the eruption. Yeah, very good read. Yeah, nothing to see. Please move along, right? Just like they're doing now. So please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for taking your time. If you wish to support my work, I'm also on Patreon. I call it Pennies from Heaven because you can subscribe there for just $1 a month. That's it, $1. And for those of you that subscribe for $1 a month, yep, they are pennies from heaven. Please stay safe. Always be prepared for a disaster, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.